My Bitcoin buddy, Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital, for the show, sponsor of the show. We were just talking. I want you to explain to everybody the insanity of a company that is basically using Bitcoin folks to finance their Bitcoin. And the reality is they're not getting anything out of it except the people who run the place are getting rich.
Yeah. So first of all, when we're talking about how crazy this is, we got to put it into context, because this week alone, and I'm sure you and the listeners are fully well aware of this because you've been watching with bated breath, but Fartcoin is up 200% this week. Okay, and it now is sitting about over a $500 million market cap. So when we say things are crazy, I feel like you always got to put it in context, because when you're talking about this market, there's always something crazier, right? But no,
so a girl, she made all that money and then she, pumped and dumped.
Oh man, that was. It's so, it's so funny, Chad. 'Cause I'm sure you remember this, but if you're in this business long enough, you realize that there's nothing new under the sun, right?
No.
The old ideas just keep getting recycled. Watching these crypto people do exactly what mining companies back in the 80s were doing in the Vancouver Stock Exchange, it's the exact same thing. And people are like, "What do you mean there's fraud?" And I'm like, guys, we've seen this movie multiple times before, right? Like, she's going to issue a coin and then she's going to rug pull you guys. And you know what? Honestly, good for her, right? If you're dumb enough to go buy, if
you're dumb enough to buy it, you are dumb enough to lose it and learn that lesson.
Yep, a fool and his money were lucky enough to get together in the first place, right? And if you weren't going to lose it on Hawk to a coin, you were going to buy somebody else's magic beans and lose it that way, right? Like, so.
Fartcoin.
Yeah, Fartcoin. Well, no, that's a high quality. I mean, that's a winner, right? Don't go knocking on Fartcoin now.
Don't go knocking on Fartcoin.
You can't make this stuff up. No. So this one though, this is one that I've been on a little bit of crusade on, and I want, if anybody out there has any experience with this or whatever, please recognize the fact that I am not anti-Bitcoin. I'm not trying to attack your trade. If you've been in this stock and you've made a bunch of money, congratulations. Ring the register. Nobody's hating on you. I'm really trying to warn people about this. So one of the hottest stocks out there that everybody's all excited about is MicroStrategy. Now, MicroStrategy, I haven't done a lot of fundamental work on it. I've looked at it multiple times, but I want to say it's a tech company that provides hardware for enterprise software type operations, right? And I think that's what it is. Anyway, I want to say they do $700-800 million of revenue a year. Not a tiny company, but nothing big. And the CEO of that company, a guy by the name of Michael Saylor, the name of the company called is MicroStrategy, and ticker symbol is MSTR. CEO is a guy by the name of Michael Saylor. He's done this kind of thing before. He was pumping tech companies back in the first bubble and got completely destroyed. And there were some very shady things he was involved with. Didn't go to jail or anything, but this guy fishes on the other side of the net. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So anyway, he's become this huge Bitcoin fan and big Bitcoin prognosticator. Okay, so he came up with this brilliant idea that MicroStrategy was going to issue a bunch of coupon-free bonds. Okay, so which means that it's bonds that investors will buy that don't pay interest, okay? And they're convertible. So rather than paying you interest, they give you the ability to convert the bond into equity or stock at some point down the line, right? So he's issued to point, now this is a company that does about $700-800 million in revenue. It might be higher now, but it's right around $1 billion in revenue, let's call it. In the last couple of years, they've taken out $40 billion in debt in these convertible notes. Now they're not paying interest on it, so money isn't costing them. But they've taken out $40 billion in notes, and they've bought $40 billion worth of Bitcoin with it. And he's planning on issuing another $46 billion worth of notes and buying another $40 billion worth of, or $46 billion worth of Bitcoin, whatever that'll buy him. And so all the Bitcoin people think this guy is like, the Noah's Ark of Bitcoin, or whatever. Fill in your, he's got it all figured out. He's going to make all these other companies like Microsoft do the same thing. It's the future of money, blah, 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 blah. So all these Bitcoin people that have made a bunch of money in Bitcoin, by the way, we own some Bitcoin, not anti-Bitcoin. That's the other thing. When you come out and you speak against this guy or his company, everybody's, oh, you don't understand crypto. And I'm like, no, but I understand stocks. And, and you clearly don't. So all the Bitcoin people are getting all fired up and they're pushing the stock to the moon. Okay, here's the problem. The reason that everybody loves Bitcoin, when you look at the reasons why everybody loves it, what they say, right, is A, they can't make more of it. It's anti-fiat currency, right? There's only going to be 26 million Bitcoin. They're never going to create any more, right? Second of all, it doesn't involve any other mediary, right? There's no another intermediary. You don't have anybody in between you and your trade. It's perfect. All the setup. It's the future of money. Second, or third, it's not tied to any encumbrance. Bitcoin is not simultaneously anybody else's liability, right? So all these things. Well, when you buy stock in this company because you think it's connected to Bitcoin, you're nullifying all of those things about Bitcoin that you love. Why? Because as an equity holder in a company, you have no right or you have no claim on the underlying assets of a corporation until debt holders have been paid off. But here's the problem. They got about 40 billion in debt. They've got about $40 billion worth of Bitcoin. Okay. And they've promised not to sell the Bitcoin. Okay. So if they hold their promise, they can't pay the debt off. So the only way that they'll pay the debt off is they'll convert it into equity. Okay. So what does that mean? If you're out there buying their stock because they're buying all this Bitcoin and you think it's another way to play the price rise on Bitcoin, what it means is you have absolutely zero claim to the underlying Bitcoin, and B, you're going to get diluted over time because as an equity holder, all of that debt, because they're not going to sell the Bitcoin, so that debt's going to convert to equity. So guess what you're doing? You are fiating your Bitcoin, right? If you hold it in that context, how is it any different than a fiat currency? How does a fiat currency work? Well, you own the currency, it becomes your asset, but you have no claim on the underlying assets of whatever jurisdiction issued that currency, and you're also guaranteed to get diluted over time if that jurisdiction is running a deficit, right? So literally, you just bought the fiat version of Bitcoin. This is a scam. It's not a scam that's illegal. That's the crazy thing, is he's being honest about what he's doing. People are just stupid enough to buy it. So I don't think the guy's in any legal issue. It's just these people buying. He literally said, Chad, he was explaining this in a recent interview, and he goes, basically, and I think he screwed up. I think he kind of, like my analyst said, he just said the quiet part out loud. He's like, basically, basically you're paying me $3 for a dollar.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all excited because the stock moves up typically at about 2.5 to 3 times the price of Bitcoin. So they all think that that's a feature. And you go, no, guys, it's there. That's just because more people are buying it. It's not guaranteed to go up 3x Bitcoin. Bitcoin actually should have no impact on the underlying equity price. But the Bitcoin on the balance sheet's owned by the debt holders. So people are going to get smoked.
When you explain stuff to people, so there you are talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. So when you talk to some of these, because you said you get, talking to them on Twitter and whatnot, are they just are they so sold for Bitcoin that they're just like, it doesn't matter. Anything Bitcoin, they're buying and they don't care. They're not listening to anything. Is that kind of what you get?
Yeah. And I get told I'm an idiot and I hate Bitcoin. And so I don't understand it. And I'm a fiat, have fun being poor, and and it's so frustrating because you're like, listen, I'm not trying to troll you. I'm not trying to call you an idiot. I'm literally, not everybody's got different intentions, and everybody's in different businesses for different reasons. And I love what I do, but there's also a passion to try to save people from getting their head ripped off, right? Like because there's so many scammers out there, and so you'll engage in these conversations. Not being snarky at all, just sitting there telling them, no, listen, I don't think you understand the way equity works. You have just walking them through it. And it's just, you don't understand it. You're an anti-Bitcoiner. And I'm like, we own millions of dollars of Bitcoin here. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. But this makes no sense. This guy is anti-you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do they think's going to happen? So you're never going to sell it. I mean, do they actually do anything that produces revenue outside of now just becoming a full-time Bitcoin bond selling, coupon selling company?
Well, they do, but I mean, so if they accomplish their goals, I mean, and don't quote me. Like I said, I've done barely any work on the actual company itself because, whether or not they do 800 million in revenue or 2.4 billion in revenue, it doesn't matter because you got 40 billion on the balance sheet of Bitcoin, right? So, bottom line is, whatever the underlying company doesn't matter, right? It's not big enough to service the debt. It's not big enough to impact it. The whole company is just a Bitcoin bet, right? That's all it is.
My thought process is, so you're going to buy 80-90 million dollars in Bitcoin and you're never going to sell it and you're going to hope it goes up. And what's the goal at the end of the day with the Bitcoin?
I see, this is the thing this is the thing I've always had a trouble with, right? I love the ethos and the elegant design behind Bitcoin. It really is a marvel of a creation. The engineering was unbelievable. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Where I have a problem is when we start saying the market cap of and these guys are out there, by the way. Bitcoin's going to 13 million.
Oh,
Bitcoin's
I know.
going to 5 million. Right? And you look at them and go, why? Guys, just because another asset in the world is being degraded does not mean that another asset in the world is going up in a commensurate level. That's not how this works, right? Yeah. It's just not. Second of all, governments can't stop it. Really? You think so? Like if Bitcoin becomes a serious and it's the future of money. No, it's not. Nobody's using Bitcoin as money. They're hodling it, right? It's not even achieving its use case at this point.
Yeah.
Right, it's supposed to be
it's a collector's item that you never want to sell.
Right,
you hope goes up in value, and you're never going to sell it. Your painting on the wall of Van Gogh's painting may be worth $15 million, but right now it's just sitting on the wall and it does you no good.
Right, and they go, well, that's just like gold. And I said, well, I didn't sit out here and tell you that you should sell all your assets and buy gold, right? And then they're like, and I go, but it's also not like gold. And you want me to tell you why? Because gold actually has physical use, right? There's things you can do with it. Well, you can hold it. Here's the other thing you can do. If you're in a power outage or the government blocks your internet access, you can put your net worth into a car and drive somewhere else, right? Can't do that with Bitcoin.
No.
Right? So now, and here's the issue I have with the Bitcoin people. If the approach was, now, the debate that I think has got some serious, some teeth to it, is if the argument is that portion of your portfolio, right, that fireproof, break in case of glass stuff, if you think that should be a mix of Bitcoin and gold, that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Because I could see where one would work at one point, but it should be an anyway, it's just gotten carried away. And when everybody's sitting there telling you how great it is and you need to own it, but nobody is using it in the way of how, so they're, it does all these things. This is why it's so great, but nobody uses it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a currency. It's all the things I need. I could buy stuff with. Why don't you?
It's a dream catcher.
Yeah. It is.
Well, we've called it a dream, or we've called it we've called it a dream hanger, right? Meaning it's amorphous enough to where anybody can extrapolate and graft their dreams and hopes onto it, right? And then it goes up. And so, like I said, do we own some? Yeah, because in a world of fiat, to their Bitcoin people's credit, in a world of fiat currency, where these guys are just going to keep printing it ad infinitum, is it possible that Bitcoin can go to 1 million? Yeah. Do we own a lot of it? No, because you don't need to. If you think something's going to 10 or 15x, guess what the luxury you've got is? You don't need to own a lot.
Yeah.
So
true.
Anyway, it's one of those things where you don't really know about it, but so I've got no problem with people holding some Bitcoin or whatever. I'm also not saying that stock couldn't double or triple from now. The fact that stock's trading where it is just proof that nobody really cares about the fundamentals.
No.
So, but what I'm telling you is this isn't new, right? History is replete with stories of guys levering up balance sheets to buy non-cash flowing assets. And every bloody time it ends the same way. Okay, yeah. This is not a new strategy. So we'll see. But man, I'll tell you, there's I thought these markets were frothy and richly priced in 2019. Holy smokes! Holy smokes!
Talking Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. People want to reach out to you, get a risk review, go through what they're working on when they're retirement. What do they do?
Just go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, or you can just Google us, Google Bulwark Capital Management or Know Your Risk Radio. We're not tough to find, man. We're all over the place.
Right on, man. You have a good week. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. Fun as always.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.